We acknowledge that we are on the lands of Anishinaabe Nation. This spot where we gather is the traditional land of the Three Fires Confederacy, the Ottawa, Potawatomi, and Ojibwe. We also recognize that this land is now home to the Delaware Nation. This land was settled through the McKee Purchase Treaty of 1790, and we as beneficiaries of the treaty must recognize our responsibilities, including our collective responsibilities to the land and water. Mr. Mayor, we do not have a supplementary agenda this evening, and we have 3 pecuniary interests that have been declared. Councillor Sakachi on 11B, Councillor Story on 11G, and Councillor Story again on 11I. With that, we'll move to Planning Services.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Planning meeting process. The process to be followed for each application will be as follows. 1, the clerk will announce each individual planning item. 2, the mayor will ask if there is anyone present other than the applicant and or their agent with an interest in the item and to indicate so by raising their hand. 3, the clerk will advise if written or video submissions have been received. 4, if anyone is present indicating an interest in the item, or if written or video submissions have been received, there will be a presentation by administration. 5, individuals with an interest in the item other than the applicant will be asked to proceed to the podium, provide their name and address, and address council. The clerk will read the written submissions and play video submissions that have been received. 6, the applicant will be asked to proceed to the podium and address council. 7, administration will be asked if they have any comments based on any discussion that may have occurred. And 8, council will be asked what action it wishes to take with regard to the item. Notice. If any person or public body that files an appeal of a decision of council in respect of the proposed applications does not make oral or written submissions to the municipal clerk before the proposal is approved, they are not entitled to appeal decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal if otherwise eligible, unless in the opinion of the tribunal there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party to the appeal. Information on council's actions tonight will be posted on the municipal website. All persons who have made a request or have made written or oral submission regarding a particular planning item will receive a notice of council's decision, including appeal procedures. Any other person who wishes to receive a notice of decision must submit a written request to the municipal clerk. Thank you.
11A, applications for consent and zoning bylaw amendment. Ralph Rolls, 24450 Dashwheel Road, Community of Tilbury East, West Kent. There are no conflict of interest and no deputations have been received on this matter.
Is there anyone present other than the applicant and or their agent with an interest in the application? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, can I get Councillor Anderson and Councillor Sakachi to move the recommendations?
I'm happy to move that.
So seconded, Mayor Caniff.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 16-0. 11B, application for consent and zoning bylaw amendment. Robbie Chambers, 10235 Pioneer Line, Community of Chatham Township, North Kent. We have a conflict of interest by Councillor Sakachi. No deputations have been received.
Is there anyone present other than the applicant and or their agent with an interest in the application? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, Councillor Jubenville and Councillor Hall, can I get you to move this, please?
I'll make a motion to move it.
So seconded.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 15-0. 11C, application for zoning bylaw amendment. Robert and Tasha Shaw, 13504 Jane Street, Community of Thamesville, East Kent. There are no conflict of interest. No deputations have been received.
Is there anyone present other than the applicant and or their agent with an interest in this application? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, Councillor Pinsonneau and Councillor Wright, can I get you to move this, please?
Happy to move that, Your Worship.
Happy to second it. Thank you.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 16-0. 11D, application for zoning bylaw amendment, First Family Homes, Inc., Lands Boulevard, Community of Blenheim, South Kent. No conflict of interest and no deputations have been received.
Is there anyone present other than the applicant and or their agent with an interest in the application? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, Councillor Thompson and Councillor Doyle, can I get you to move this, please?
Happy to move it.
I will second that.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in and motion passes 16-0. Next application is 11E, applications for consent and zoning bylaw amendment. Joseph and Eva DeRocher and John and Pamela Ruger. 21198 and 21208 Erie Street South, Community of Wheatley, West Kent. There is no conflict of interest. I have received one deputation that they would like the clerk's office to read. I will do so now. I am writing to you concerning the application for properties 21198 and 21208 Erie Street South, Wheatley. I am opposed to the severing and conveying of the 3 new vacant lots, residential lots, and future road allowance from the subject lands. Currently, all adjacent properties have a footage of approximately 125 feet, and all of these new parcels proposed will be tiny 50 feet across. It would also create new driveways going out into a busy 60-kilometer-per-hour road. I am opposed to the proposed road also. I believe that the property owners could possibly create 3 equal fronted lots and at maximum and no road, and it would preserve the aesthetics of our existing neighborhood. I believe that any future road could be located elsewhere, as there are existing roads that could be used in the future. This would eliminate any traffic issues. In summary, I'm opposed to creating residential lots at 50-foot frontage adjacent to mine. I'm opposed to the future road located within the lot of 21208 and 21198. Are you aware that as proposed and provided description key map of application number D28 WH0223D, separate parcel number 2, is part of a driveway of an existing retained parcel 2? Please respect the existing neighbors' properties by not changing our country lots to something that would have been found in a subdivision. We are not in town, and most properties along Erie Street South and Wheatley/Leamington do not have only a 50-foot frontage. Thank you, Sharon Stevenson, 531 Erie Street South, Wheatley, Ontario.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. The municipality has received applications for consent and zoning bylaw amendment concerning lands located on the east side of Erie Street South in the community of Wheatley. Subject lands consist of 2 abutting residential parcels, each containing a residential dwelling. The proposal is to reconfigure these lands for an outcome that would be 2 or 3 new vacant residential lots intended for single detached dwellings, to retain the existing dwellings on what would be smaller residential lots, and to also provide for a future right-of-way to service lands to the rear of the subject lands. The zoning bylaw amendment was to recognize some zoning deficiencies as a result of these severances. It was also to rezone the future road allowance to an appropriate zone so that no development occurs in that parcel in the immediate future, and also to recognize the resulting lot frontage of one of the severed parcels. The applicant has contacted the municipality with after discussions with neighbors and wanted to revise the recommendations before council this evening. So there's 6 recommendations before council, and the applicant would like to move forward with recommendation 1 and recommendation 5. Recommendation 1, to give some context to council, is the triangular piece. Now those lands are currently with 21198 Erie Street South. The recommendation 1 would be to sever those lands as a lot addition to 21208 Erie Street South, and that would allow for a future land configuration that would come before council at a future date. Recommendation 5 is to create the smaller residential parcel on the north side of 21208 Erie Street South. And that would be, the zoning of that property would be site-specific residential low-density zone, and that's to permit single residential dwellings, but to also recognize a minor deficiency in the lot frontage of that parcel. With that, the zoning bylaw that was with the original recommendation would need to be revised only to facilitate what's proposed with this revised recommendation. And Judy, I think another recommendation would be required that recommendations 2, 3, and 4 in the planning report be deferred to a future meeting and that further public notice be given at that time. Not sure if this is changed or how you want to handle the recommendations, but with that, the recommendation would be that, that recommendation 1 be approved as set out in the planning report. 2, the recommendation 5 be approved as set out in the planning report. 3, the recommendation 6 be approved as amended with the bylaw revised to only reflect the wording in condition A from recommendation number 5. And 4, the recommendations 2, 3, and 4 be postponed to a future meeting in which public notice will be given. Thank you.
Councillor Anderson and Councillor Thompson, can you move this, please?
I'm happy to move that.
And I'll second it.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 16-0. 11F, application for zoning bylaw amendment, N2 Energy Solutions, Inc., 56 and 60 King Street East, Chatham City. There are no conflict of interest and no deputations have been received.
Is there anyone present other than the applicant and or their agent with an interest in this application? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, can Councillor Crew and Councillor Finn move this, please?
So moved.
So seconded.
Any questions? Councillor Doyle?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I guess just with the parking spots, I'm definitely all for the development. But is there many other similar apartment complexes that we have that do have less than one unit or less than one parking spot per unit already? And second, how many rooms will be per unit in this build?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I don't know if Ryan Jacques is on the line to answer the first question. It's certainly, I would just make note that the parking ratio that's being proposed is set at 0.85. There's actually 19 parking spaces, so it's slightly under. The zoning bylaw does maybe reflect something that's even further decreased from what's required. So I just wanted to make note of that. So there's 2 accessible parking spaces with the 17 standard parking spaces for that proposal. In terms of other proposals in Chatham-Kent, again, Mayor, if I can maybe pass over to Ryan if he's available to see if there's anything.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me, this is Ryan Jacques, Director of Planning Services. Not prepared with any specific examples where there's a 1-to-1 or close to a 1-to-1 parking ratio for dwellings, but maybe in the interest of council to understand that the applicant is applying for grant funding from non-municipal sources to allow these units to be subsidized affordable dwelling units. So in cases such as this, it is encouraged to bring more subsidized affordable housing to the community to reduce the parking ratio to make it more viable for a developer to bring this housing type into our community. And with that, it is expected and observed in other cases that tenants in these dwellings typically would not have more than one vehicle, and some would not have vehicles. Thank you.
Thanks. I guess my thought was for people that are coming to visit as well. There's not really much parking in the area. That's the only thing I'm thinking. Is there any way to go down from 20 units to something else, or are we kind of at 12 or 20?
It's council has the discretion to refer this back to administration for further consultation with the applicant regarding their proposal. Should council wish to revisit the density or the parking ratio as recommended.
Okay.
Okay. That'll be all.
Seeing no other questions, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 16-0. 11G, application for zoning bylaw amendment, 11402-587, Canada Incorporated 594 Murray Street, Community of Wallaceburg. We have a conflict of interest by Councillor Story, and no deputations have been received.
Is there anyone present other than the applicant or their agent with an interest in the application? If so, please raise your hand. Seeing none, Councillor C. McGregor and Councillor Hall, can I get you to move this, please?
Certainly, I'd be happy to move.
Happy to second.
Any questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 15-0. 11H, application for zoning bylaw amendment, 1000258802, Ontario Inc., 153 Harvey Street, Community of Chatham City. There are no conflict of interest, and 2 deputations have been received by the clerk's office, and they are present this evening.
Sorry, yeah, I'll just check to see if there's anybody else. So we have the 2 noted, and is there anyone else? Oh, if so, go ahead, clerk. Madam Clerk. Okay.
Thank you, Brinkana. The municipality has received an application for zoning bylaw amendment concerning property address 153 Harvey Street in City of Chatham. The property is currently vacant. It's a designated residential area in the Chatham-Kent official plan and currently zoned residential low density third. The current zoning permits singles, semis, and duplex dwellings as of right. The proposal is to redevelop the subject property with a 2-story apartment dwelling consisting of 6 residential units with off-street parking proposed to the rear of the building. To facilitate this development, the zoning bylaw amendment is proposing to rezone the property to a medium-density residential zone that permits an apartment dwelling as of right, along with a duplex dwelling, fourplex dwelling, and row house dwelling, and to establish specific regulations for the proposed use, specifically to set the interior side yard width minimum for the easterly side yard at 1.52 meters and reduce the off-street parking requirement to 1 space per unit. The proposal is also to place the property into a holding zone. So this provision, if council approves the application tonight, would not allow this development to occur until certain provisions are fulfilled, and that being that this property have a connection to the municipal storm sewers along Harvey Street. So the holding provision would, if approved tonight, the holding provision would keep the property into the RL3 zone. Technically, only those uses permitted in the current zoning would be permitted until that holding provision is removed. This is just the site plan that was provided by the applicant demonstrating the proposed development. These are smaller one-bedroom units. There's, as I said, there's 2-story with a laneway from Harvey Street to the rear of the property. And there's where there's the off-street parking. There's actually 8 spaces in total. So 6 units, 8 spaces, one's identified as accessible. There's one additional space that, if needed, could be accessible moving forward in the future as well, depending on tenants. So with that, the recommendation is for zoning bylaw amendment application file D14C-0223-0 to rezone the lands known as 153 Harvey Street and part of Lot 3, Block C, old survey from residential low density third to a site specific holding residential medium density second zone to permit medium density residential development and to establish the following regulations. A, easterly interior side yard width minimum of 1.52 meters. And B, off-street parking rate of 1 space per dwelling unit be approved and the implementing bylaw be adopted. Thank you.
Does council have any questions of administration? Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Anthony, the holding provision is in place until they connect to the municipal stormwater sewer system, correct? So why aren't they now? Like, I thought, you know, if you had that facility on the street that you lived in, you would just naturally be connected to it. No, obviously not.
Thank you, Rick Caniff. Councillor, it's a combined sewer system. That's the historical way these lands have been serviced. And at a later date, I'm not sure what timing was, but now there's the availability of a separated storm sewer, which is advantageous to this development. So the municipality is being proactive in requiring that a connection be made instead of the development being outletting into the combined sewer. So effectively, sanitary would go into the combined sewer, and now that they would have a connection to the storm sewer, all stormwater would go into the storm sewer, and it'll separate the two.
So the separated system is on Harvey Street, but they don't use it? See what I'm getting at? Like, I'm
yeah, no, it's always been on a combined sewer. So combined would be that the storm and the sanitary flowed into the one system. At a later date, the separated storm only came in place, but not everybody is connected to that. I don't know what reason it is. That's more of an engineering question. But
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
So I just thought everybody would be obligated to connect to the new separated system, but I guess not.
No, not to my knowledge, no. And definitely not in this case, but the holding provision is to require that connection to be made.
Okay, well, that's curious. Thanks.
Okay, now Madam Clerk will call on the deputations.
Sure, we have 2 this evening. We have Bill Flavel, and on deck will be David Sostek. Apologize if that's not correct. I remind both speakers that you have a maximum of 5 minutes, so if Bill would like to come forward to the podium.
Okay. Hi, I have a few pictures. Could we put the pictures up, please?
Actually, all the pictures have been emailed to council
have
at
they?
3 o'clock, so you have them.
So what I have done, I live at 154, which is across the street. So there are 3 or 4 rentals in that neighborhood. One is at 157. That is across the street from me. That is, the owner is out of town. And as you can see by the pictures, it is kind of a dump. Then there's a 4-plex at 140 Harvey Street. And if you look at the pictures of that, they aren't the greatest either. Then 160 Harvey Street, which is an owner from Toronto, which is next to my place. In one of the pictures, you can see part of my garage, and you can see the fence that used to be a garage, and that's the way they've left it, and that was, I believe, 2 years ago. Then you can see the front of 160 Harvey Street. Then you see 159 Harvey Street, which is a duplex where the owner lives in it, and it looks pretty nice. And then mine is 154 Harvey Street. I live there with a tenant, and it doesn't look too bad either. I just find now if you get a sixplex in there, what's it gonna look like? Thank you. Any questions?
And,
Should I know? Okay, thanks.
and next is David, and those are the two deputations for this item.
Hello, I live at 149 Harvey Street, so I'm next door to that. That building, the size of it is gonna take all my sunlight. A lot of it heats up my home in the wintertime through my side windows. And I'm even looking at the size of this, doesn't fit the street. There's like the other gentleman said, there's smaller homes all around. And having 6 units there, do we know the occupancy permit that's gonna be given to that place? Like how many people are gonna live there? 20, 30 people? I don't think 7 parking places is gonna be enough. And then we got a problem with the water runoff. The sewer system is not a combined. Since I've been there, they redid the street. They did not do the sewer system on Harvey. So it's the old system. And when I seen them doing King Street, I was seeing water mains only like 1 foot big. So now if you put a density like that and you allow this 6 unit, it's gonna just continue. The stormwater is not, the sewer system's not gonna be able to handle it. And the placement of the building is, to me, it affects me quite a bit. If it was put at the back of the property, it wouldn't affect anyone. At the back of the property, there's a 50-foot commercial building there. So that building being close to that building would be a better fit, and the parking should be out front, if anything, where they can have more parking. Right now, it's the parking's limited 2 hours, so you don't have parking on the street. And when it's holidays, it's full. And there's not even a building on that. As soon as you put a building on that, up to what, 30 people are gonna live there? How many vehicles are gonna be on there? There's not gonna be anywhere. We already have problems with people parking on the grass. I've had complaints come to me saying I'm parking on the grass when I got a big driveway. I got no problems parking. I'm worried about everyone else. And in this building, it's just, to me, it looks like you need a planning application too, because the coverage, you don't have any grass just to strip along the side and the back that's gonna absorb water. That's really not enough. 150, the property next door, I believe it's 157, that property is probably 1 foot, 2 feet lower than this vacant lot. So that property there is gonna flood out. Me, I have no problems with basement flooding or anything. I know if you put this building up the way it is, there's gonna be problems. Because that sewer system, I truly believe, because I moved there before they dug up the road and they did not do any work to the sewer systems. I see it on Wellington and King, where you do have the stormwater sewer that shows fish on the covers. We don't have that on our street. So I'm just worried about that density being crammed into that little place and then it not fitting the neighborhood. It's just gonna be a big monstrosity. I think that's it. I do have something else. The back of that property, since I moved here, I probably kicked off 5 squatters, starting bonfires, whatever. Now you're gonna have this parking lot in the back, which welcomes thieves to break into vehicles and vandalize. And that's what's gonna happen there. That's why I think the parking should be out front. where police, when they drive by, they, you know, the thieves aren't gonna be hiding in the shadows, stealing from the people. And there's nowhere for families to have a yard to have their kids play on the grass or have a barbecue out there. There's just so many problems with that. I am a planning tech, so I've done a lot of site plans. I was site plan coordinator for Brant County for a short period, so I know drawings, and I just see a lot of flaws in this drawing. Thank you. Any questions?
We'll go to Mr. Joss now to answer our, any other comments based on what you've heard?
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Not sure if there's any follow-up questions from council, but just to kind of address a couple points. The proposal is a good example of infill intensification and redevelopment of an underutilized lot. It's close to the core of the city, where it has access to different amenities along Richmond and in the downtown core. Accessibility to public transportation as well. More and more, we're starting to see proposals where the parking rate within the zoning bylaw is being considered to be reduced. This is no different. The 6 units are intended to be 1-bedroom apartment units. The application in general is providing additional housing types and units to residents of this community, which is a positive thing and meets the intent of the Chatham-Kent official plan as well. In terms of location, building location, parking currently isn't permitted in the front yard, as was stated, but also the type of development was intended to be consistent with surrounding development. So especially on Harvey Street, where you'll see a range of low density, so single detached, semi-detached dwellings, but also some medium density as well in the area in terms of a 4-plex dwelling. There's one example that's down the street on Harvey. So I guess just open up to any questions the council may have.
Councillor Crew, followed by Councillor Story.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I don't have questions, maybe comment. The speaker in the white sweater, I'm sorry, but he made a suggestion about the building being at the back of the lot and the parking in the front, and I kind of agree with that from a crime prevention kind of safety idea. But so could you bring that suggestion to the applicant? I'm not making a motion or anything. I'm just saying it's a good suggestion.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Councillor, the recommendation is based on what was provided by the applicant. Now, they're not in attendance at this meeting, so to have that conversation is not possible for administration to address. Certainly.
Could he move it without it coming to this table?
No, it would need to be,
okay.
Yeah, it would need to be.
All right, I just thought it was a good
suggestion.
suggestion. Also, the concerns that the neighbors are raising about property standards, basically, that all they need to do is call 311 or 519-360-1998 and put that property standard complaint in if it's the garbage and things like that. And then you'll get a tracking number so you can keep track of that, and we'll follow up with it.
Mr. Jacques, do you want to comment on that as well?
Mr. Mayor, I did have just one comment on the building location in general. Certainly, moving the building location to the back is something that can be further considered by the applicant. But I just want to share with council one of the things that we do consider when we're citing buildings in established residential neighborhoods. There's official plan policy that speaks to this, but it's often something that council might hear from neighbors as well when the changing character of a neighborhood is considered. And one of the things we specifically reviewed in the planning department was the building location. And what led this to being recommended with the building in the front is that the narrow face or the end of the apartment would be roughly in line and have a consistent setback with abutting houses and housing along the street. And then the length of the apartment sort of goes back into the property. And this property is over 210 feet deep, so it's considerably deep and can accommodate sort of a longer building perpendicular to the street. So even with the increased density of 6 units, if it's constructed at that location, like to the passerby or to people on the street, the intent there is to maintain that built form sort of right up closer to the street. And we get these requests in other neighborhoods as well where they'd like to have parking in the front. But in general, and I'm not making a judgment here at this particular property, but in general, we do prefer to see that consistent built form at the street. But of course, to the councillor's question with regard to crime prevention, certainly that's something that could be reconsidered as well. But the result of that would be more, automobile activity at the street rather than a building. Thank you.
Councillor Story?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly support the opportunities to create infill housing. Housing is certainly a need we've identified, but I also appreciate our delegations coming today and speaking and sharing their concerns with us and raising those points with us. I did have a question about the parking, which has been answered, but I did want to follow up about the issues raised about shade. Are there any zoning requirements or regulations around, when you put a taller building beside a shorter one? And sunlight shade issues, is that any part of the Planning Act, or is that something we do not have any say over as a council? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. Councillor, no, it's not considered in zoning. I would say though, it's the proposal is for a 2-story building, which is consistent with what's possible on surrounding lands as they develop, either with a single or a semi or any type of development that's permitted.
Okay, thank you.
Seeing no other questions, Councillor B. McGregor and Councillor Allen, can I get you to move this, please?
I'll move the recommendation.
Happy to second.
Okay, any other questions? Seeing none, we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 15-1. And the final application for this evening is 11I, applications for consent and zoning bylaw amendment, Thomas and Karen Renwick, and 1000241009 Ontario Inc., Talbot Trail, Community of Romney, West Kent. We have a conflict of interest by Councillor Story, and we do have one deputation present this evening.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. The municipality has received applications for consent and zoning bylaw amendment concerning lands located on the south side of Talbot Trail in the community of Romney. The subject lands consist of 2 abutting parcels. They're between Coatsworth Road and Campbell Road in Romney Township. 2 parcels are described on the key map as east of Cedar Road and west of Cedar Road. In total, the lands are approximately 35 acres in area. The lands are currently vacant and cultivated, but they also consist of plans of subdivision. So there's registered lots. So just to give some context here, I know this is a bit of a rough drawing, but so anywhere where there's a registered plan, 390, registered plan 391 and 394 are basically the subject lands. So the Lakeshore Drive, which kind of bisects the property, is on the north side. Plan 394 is 52 lots. On the south side of Lakeshore is approximately 56 lots consisting of Plan 390 and 391. 6 of these lots are currently developed. and they're located at the end of Cedar Drive with frontage on Lakeshore Drive. So based on this drawing, in total, these are lots on a plan of subdivision. So these are separately conveyable lots. The current situation is the lots that have frontage on Taba Trail and or Cedar Drive could potentially be developed today. The proposal before council this evening is the consent application is technically a land consolidation exercise to improve the current situation. The proposal is to create 14 new vacant residential lots out of these lots that are on the plans of subdivision that would be intended for single detached dwellings. The proposal is also to address development setbacks from Lake Erie, and it recognizes capacity limits on municipal pipe water along Taba Trail. So the proposal is to sever 7 lots on the east side and 7 lots on the west side of Cedar Road. The lots that only have frontage on Taba Trail will extend south to the shoreline, and there's 2 lots on either side that will have a majority of frontage on Cedar Road. The zoning bylaw amendment application is to rezone basically all of the severed lands, but we'll rezone the severed lots specifically to address lot frontage and lot area for the resulting parcels. And the rezoning will also implement the development setback requirements from the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority. And to do so, those lands will be placed within a hazard land zone.
Does council have any questions of administration?
No.
Seeing none?
We have one deputation this evening, Brett Ballard, and I understand he's speaking on behalf of his neighbor also. Brett, same rules as before. There'll be a 5-minute time limit. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak to this. As this application stands presently, both myself and the neighbor, we both live at the southernmost point of Cedar Road, we're against the application as present because, excuse me, can we put the map back up of the proposal? Or of the application, the map of the application?
We'll get that back up. We just have the timer up right
Okay.
now, but we will get it
What
up
it
right now.
is the reason we're against the application is because you've got two lots, actually 4 lots, to the east and to the west of Cedar Road. Cedar Road is roughly an 80-year-old cow path. Its present condition is only at its state is because of myself and the neighbor. I've been taking care of the road, repairing the potholes for the last 34 years. It's one of those roads that council has refused to take care of over the decades, one of the spur roads off Highway 3 or Talbot Trail. Having said that, the road at this point in time is only 9.5 feet wide. If you look at the map, there's plenty of room to widen it at whose cost? All the utilities that service these 2 houses are based on a 9.5 foot road. To widen the road, are you going to rip out all the utilities to the 2 houses that are there at the end of the road? Our solution, if you would like to hear a solution to this possible application, would you like to hear one, Mayor?
The floor is yours.
Okay. Basically, in there, if you go on to the consent portion of the application, it says, and I'll just, setbacks from Lake Erie and capacity limits of municipal pipe water service along Talbot Trail. Well, there is the municipal pipe service down Cedar Road is only enough for 2 houses. Same thing with the gas line. Same thing with the other utilities. With our proposal is only having 1 lot. Basically, all the lots that the applicant is proposing, serviced by and utilities all coming off Talbot Trail, nothing off Cedar Road. Consequently, eliminating 2 lots from the applicant to 12 lots instead of 14. The lots abutting Cedar Road on both sides, 1 large lot instead of 2, serviced from Talbot Trail. Any questions? The erosion factor down here, and I have to question the map used for the proposal because it looks like a really, really old map. Had I have known that we were allowed visual aids, I did download a couple of Google Earth maps, but they're dated 2015. This does not show the accurate erosion at all. Myself, approximately 35 years ago, I received an $18,000 grant from Lower Thames Conservation Authority to pick my house up and move it back within the 100-year erosion limit. At the time when that was done, the erosion limit, if you stuck your arms out like this, you were 20 feet to the south of my house. Today, 40 years later, if you stick your arms out like this to align the setback of the 2 fields to the east and the west, you're approximately, my house is gone, and you are 20 feet north. Had we have not done all the work we did to the bank, my house would not be there right now. So the Lower Thames Conservation Authority, what they consider their setback equation is woefully under. This is eroding far greater than what the Conservation Authority realizes here. The other reason I question the maps is because it doesn't show county's approximately $50,000 investment in the new drain that drains Talbot Trail called the Ballard Drain. Consequently, if you allow for multiple access off Cedar Road, not only are you going to have to widen the road, move the utilities, you're opening up a can of worms with drainage. There is none. What do you do? Solution?
Mr.
In
Ballard,
our-
that's time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Council, is there any questions regarding to clarify anything that was said by the presenter? Seeing none, the applicant, would you like to say anything?
Do I get more time?
Nope. Nice try, though.
Well, say anything within regards to,
Sorry?
say anything what more to my
No, I was just asking council if they wanted to ask you to clarify anything you said.
No.
And there wasn't any.
I go for more time.
Oh, sorry, I'm now calling on the applicant to come up.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I appreciate the gentleman's concerns regarding the Cedar Drive as a private road. I will note that the Chatham-Kent zoning bylaw does permit construction and building on private roads. And as far as the servicing goes, 2 of the lots he referred to on Cedar Drive actually do have frontage on Talbot Trail. We do know that as a condition of the severance that all lots will have to be serviced, and that servicing design must be approved by the municipality. So if there is not adequate capacity within the line servicing the dwellings closer to the lake, appropriate line will be installed to service the 2 new dwellings. So other than that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Does council have any questions of the applicant? Seeing none, administration, anything to add?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's another slide or two, but having difficulty with the monitor, so we'll bypass that. I'm not sure if Ryan had anything further for council on this, as he's has some background information that may be relevant as well. So,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's Ryan Jacques. Nothing to add unless there are questions from council. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Anderson and Councillor Doyle, can I get you to move this, please?
I'm happy to move that, Mr. Mayor.
I will second it.
Last opportunity for questions. Seeing none, then we'll put it to vote.
All votes are in. Motion passes 15-0.
With that, we'll move to notices of motion. Councillor Sakachi has one.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. I, Councillor Anthony Sakachi, here provide notice. I'll be bringing the following motion for the voting and discussion on the meeting of March 27th. Where there is many, where there are many kilometers of rail track in the municipality of Chatham-Kent, with a diversity of passenger and freight traffic traveling daily. And whereas there are many locations in our communities where the rail tracks bisect the road network with varying safety systems such as wigwags, audible notification, and lights. And where there are documented occasions where train traffic has blocked the road network, causing challenges for the community as well as emergency vehicle access, resulting in extended response times. And where there has been tragic accidents in Chatham-Kent with train and vehicle colliding. And whereas there have been tragedies in other communities in North America who have experienced catastrophic derailments, and whereas many railway crossings are disrepair and the municipality has no methods to repair or address the concerns in a timely manner, be it resolved that Council direct administration to create a letter advocating for increased safety and maintenance to crossings, which shall be sent to the rail operators and the federal government who oversee the transport network. Communicate with the railway companies so that municipality has knowledge of risks to emergency personnel and the communities of potential goods that are being transported through our community. And communicate that what emergency plans are in place to assist the municipality through an emergency and communicate ways to mitigate the risk to the first responders. And that Chatham-Kent Fire and Rescue bring a report to council of concerns they may have with the situation and situational awareness, briefing around the issues, including in any aspects of emergency response and fire EMS station locations.
Non-agenda business. Councillor Story, followed by Councillor Crew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know we may break a record and be in under 7, so I don't want to hold us up. I just wanted to thank Council for supporting me in running for the Ontario caucus at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Mayor Caniff suggested I bring a quick report because I was at their meetings last week. FCM represents more than 2,100 municipalities across Canada and more than 92% of the population. And to my knowledge, we've never had a representative from Chatham-Kent on this board, so I'm very excited to be part of that. So we had our first set of annual meetings in Ajax last week. And one of the reasons why I wanted to run for FCM was to make myself a better councillor and representative of our community, bringing best practices from other municipalities here to CK, and also ensuring that Chatham-Kent has a voice at the national table when we're tackling challenges and working on solutions together. So just a quick example, I met with a councillor from Windsor Falls, Newfoundland, who's dealing with shoreline erosion issues, a councillor from Victoriaville, Quebec, who's working on innovative organic waste management practices, which is more interesting than you think, a councillor from Yorktown, Saskatchewan, who's working on abandoned and orphan gas wells, and a councillor from New Westminster, BC, who's working on affordable housing, just name a few. So all issues that we're facing here in CK, that now we have a network of other councillors who are working on the same thing, and ideally we can work together. So we have these councillors and mayors from across Canada, if we have questions, to share ideas and solutions, and it was really a positive experience to start building these connections between CK and communities across Canada. So I'm really grateful for my fellow councillors for supporting my selection to this organization. Thank you.
Councillor Crew.
Thank you, Mayor Caniff. While I was sitting here, I received a challenge for all of council from the New Beginnings, Acquired Brain Injury and Stroke Recovery. Tomorrow is World Down Syndrome Awareness Day. So they want you to take pictures of yourself in your funky socks, because that's one of the things that they do. Wear your funky socks on Down Syndrome Awareness Day and post them on Facebook. Tag New Beginnings in it, or one of their workers. So Lester sent that to me, and he said to post your funky picture on there. So the challenge is out there, so let's see those socks.
I have a couple quick ones as well. This Sunday coming up, the 26th, is Epilepsy Awareness Day, so the purple is there, so it's another awareness of that. And our condolences collectively go out to the family, friends, and constituents of West Elgin for the passing of West Elgin Mayor Duncan McPhail. So he passed away recently, and we have sent a letter from the municipality recognizing that, and condolences go out to them. Reading of the bylaws, first and second reading. Councillor Allen and Councillor Bondi. Are you, Councillor Allen, will you move?
Either one of us can move it, I guess?
Yes.
Happy to move.
Okay, I'll move it.
All right,
Happy
it's a
seconds.
battle for first and second here, is it? Okay.
Oh, see, I need Solomon. I can't do this, right? Yeah.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Third and final reading. We'll go over to this side. Councillor Doyle and Councillor Hall, will you move the third and final reading?
So seconded.
I didn't realize it was a big test here. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Resolution of council in closed session and adjournment.
I move that Chatham-Kent Council adjourn to its next meeting to be held on Monday, March 27th, 2023, and that Chatham-Kent Council authorize itself to meet in closed session on that day to discuss any matters permitted by the Municipal Act. I so move.
How about Councillor Pinson will wrap this one up?
So moved.
Okay. Anyone opposed to wrapping up at 5:58 according to the clock on the wall there? No. Hearing none, adjourn. Thank you.